Good morning, Annette Lawler here, Lion People Global. Welcome to the next episode of LT Talks, our localization consultant spotlight. Today, we're talking to Laura Casanellas, also based here in my home of Dublin. Laura is an MT machine translation expert with 20 years of experience in the localization industry. In total, 8 of those years she has spent working in machine translation. During her career, she's had the opportunity to work in many different positions: vendor management, quality management, program management. She's also been part of a machine translation provider's internal team, working as a product manager and heading up their professional services team. All of these things has given her a very unique position of being able to assess how MT affects all aspects of the localization workflow. She has trained internal teams in machine translation technology and mentored them during the process of acquisition and deployment of MT. MT is a key part of what Laura does on a day-to-day basis today. And if you just give us a few minutes, we'll get Laura on the line and start chatting with her. Good morning. So we have Laura on the line. Good morning, Laura. How are you?
How are you, Annette? I'm very well.
Good. Laura, you're also in Dublin, right?
I am,
like me?
yes.
Okay. And did you have to do the school run in the rain this morning, or is the sun shining where you are?
Well, it's beginning to look better than this morning, which was pretty miserable. Thankfully, my children are big people, although we are still in these pandemic times, I suppose. We still drive my daughter, who is in secondary school, to school sometimes, just to try to avoid the public transport as much as possible. You know?
Of course. We're close enough that they can walk sometimes, but yeah, today we had to do the ferrying. So, Laura, thanks so much for agreeing to speak with us today. We're going to talk about the exciting topic of machine translation. And, just to kind of get stuck in, Laura, I suppose I've always seen your approach to machine translation as being a very human one. And what I mean by that is you have this ability to take something that's very technical, very complicated, and make it understandable to people like me and non-technical people like me. In your experience, in the typical anatomy of an MT buyer, how important is this approach?
Well, I think it's very important, and I suppose I had to do it for myself when I started with machine translation, because I am not a technical person per se. I suppose I've learned a lot since, but I come from a linguistic background myself, so I needed to kind of, make sense of it in my head to be able to then teach and make sure our teams understood it, which was my first task, I suppose. To kind of mentor and train internal teams on the technicalities and issues related to machine translation. I think one thing is true, which is, and it's not related to machine translation specifically, which is, in these times, I think we people, humans, feel that technology is running ahead of us. Mm-hmm. And that makes us feel really unease and uncomfortable. But on the other hand, we are very quick to adapt to new technologies. Like, we all have smartphones. We don't think about it anymore. We've ditched the house phone. We almost ditched the computer. We do so many things through smartphones, and we actually don't think about it twice. So I'm not going to say that machine translation is like a smartphone, but I have used that simile at some point. By that, what I mean is, it's just another technology to help us in localization, where there are a lot of technologies already. So it's only one new technology.
Exactly. I mean, even my parents learned to use Zoom during the pandemic. So
there you go.
So there you go. And grandparents, if you need it, needs must,
you
right?
use it. That's it. Yes. And
brilliant.
So, I suppose, talking about the buyer, normally, sometimes like the head of the owner of a company, or somebody who is in a senior position, who would be making the decisions of buying new technology. They some of them are very technical and they are very pro. Some others are more, they come from the translation background and they might be a little bit more reluctant. um, but I suppose what, like, they all coincide in one thing, which is curiosity and ambition. Let's have a look at this. Can this work for me?
Right. And so speaking of that's, I suppose, some of the motivation. What are some of the other motivations of a buyer, and what are the things, what are their expectations as well as the motivation?
So motivations, sometimes it could be a client. In many cases, is a client who can be very forward in relation to technology, and they say, "I want to try machine translation. I have all this content. Maybe I could translate more content for the same money if I had something that could boost the productivity." And then obviously the company most of the time says yes instead of no, I'm going to walk away from this. Obviously competitiveness, like, I mean, people want to be as competitive as the other companies, and trying to boost productivity. I mean, there are, one of the things I suppose I say to my clients is to have um, to have a goal, why, and to, like, the first question to sort out would be, why are you implementing this technology? Because then that is going to, to begin to design the path into machine translation adoption and deployment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. And is there a checklist of sorts that these buyers should consider, important things they should consider prior?
And I mean, I would say, unless somebody's doing something highly creative, like real pure copywriting, in which case I would not use machine translation. Pretty much for the rest, machine translation can be possibly tested. Obviously, I mean, one of the super basic things is to have machine translation needs to be connected to something else. So there has to be a TMS or a CAT tool in place, for the connection to happen. Apart from that, they are good to go.
Okay. Okay. Great. But I suppose always there's obstacles. So say the owner of the business is on board with it. What are the typical internal obstacles and obstacles of translators that come up for folks?
Well, indeed, I suppose from my point of view, or what I see, is that one of the main obstacles is fear.
Right.
It's just pure human fear to the unknown. I don't know how to implement this. I don't know if it is for me. Is it going to work for my content? How am I going to onboard my vendors, my linguistic vendors, or my freelancers? How am I going to price this?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to make a profit? And well, those are some of the questions that people, rightly so, I suppose, because it is still quite new, they wonder. But fear is one of them, and I always say, try it.
Try it. Just
Try
start.
it.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's not that you need to, I mean, you are not going to lose that much for trying.
Right.
Make it work for you.
So fear is one, and then I think the other is probably the big question of data security, right? So they're always worried about, with GDPR and everything else, that security can be guaranteed. Can MT providers guarantee security and data confidentiality?
Well, as everything else, and many of people or company owners who work in the localization world, they work with cloud based systems, so they
Mm-hmm.
put their clients' data on the cloud. Um, so in this case, of course, once you sign a contract with a machine translation provider, data security is one of the points that is guaranteed for very, I suppose, specific, really kind of data sensitive content. Um, Many of the machine translation providers provide solutions within the client's firewall, but that would be for extreme cases. Don't use it for free. Pay for
Okay.
it. Pay usually guarantees confidentiality. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And I often hear in your presentations to clients that your advice is always to keep it simple. What does that mean practically?
So, well, I'm a great advocate of piloting everything, even in my own personal life. But what I suppose, start small
Okay.
if you can, unless obviously a client comes and says, "I want this and I want it in so many language pairs and all that." If let's say somebody is doing it just to test and to learn, just do it small with a couple of language pairs, maybe a couple of machine translation providers, and while you are doing it, learn, make loads of mistakes, learn from them, learn how it works with your CAT tool, with your content. What are the issues? Do you need customized engines? Are you okay with baselines? You know that some of them are very good for one content, some for the other. Just test it, and then you start small. You don't commit any risks, and you learn while you are doing it.
Okay. Okay, and I suppose the next step on from that then is quality. So quality and pricing accuracy, the correlation between the two. How do you predict what kind of quality output will be, and therefore price the post editing work in time, so that you're not losing out? What kind of guarantees are there in that area?
So here is where things not get a little complicated, but I suppose there are many options. Let's say, first of all, we could talk about machine translation quality, and we could talk about post-editing quality.
Mm-hmm.
Just to put it to bed, post-editing quality is and can be just as good as translation quality. Basically, trained post-editors will post-edit to the client's quality requirements. So there's not going to be any loss of quality per se when people are post-editing rather than translating. Having put this aside, I suppose, obviously one of the most important things, and something that I think very soon we'll see more technologies doing it, is to assess the quality of the machine translation upfront rather than once the content has been post-edited. I mean, it can be done already, but we are a bit far away from doing it in an automated way, and that is going to help pricing upfront. Of course, everybody wants to know how much is this going to cost me before I allocate it to a bunch of post-editors or translators, whatever. But there are many ways of assessing the quality. And once you know the quality and then you test it, I'm not going to start like throwing, like very technical words, but by now everybody, I think, has heard of post-edit distance, editing time, things like that can be tested already, can be analyzed in the CAT tools. The CAT tools give you this option. So you can see already the type of gains post-editors can be doing when they post-edit, rather than translate. And you can normalize this. Obviously, you don't want to get the data of one person, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the same sense that you wouldn't base your translation rates on the data of one translator.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you can begin to see the type of rate discounts you can offer to your clients.
Excellent. Excellent. I suppose just last question to close and look forward and stick a little bit with pricing and the future. What do you think the future holds per word, per hour?
So This is a great, I suppose, a great debate. I think post editors, if you give them the choice, they would say, pay me by the hour, because it feels that, you know, you are going to be paying me the same. You're going to be paying me my hourly rate, and I'm comfortable with that. But obviously, like, I mean, they would be requested to do more words per hour, if you know what I mean. At the end of the day, I think machine translation is good enough for, for post editors or translators who become post editors to gain, actually, to gain productivity and to pass on some of the savings to their clients and still be comfortable with it. What I think is, though, that at some point in the future, maybe what is now called a translator or a post editor is going to be some sort of a specialist who is going to be an amalgamation of both, and maybe more, maybe somebody who is, who can train an engine, somebody who can be created on a headline, and then do everything else by machine translation, post editing, and who can, create terminology lists to be fed into the machine translation engine, etc. I think we are living more and more, not only, as we said in the beginning, not only in localization, but in our day-to-day lives, we are living kind of repetitive tasks to machines, and we are focusing on other tasks that, thankfully, we people do better, which is great.
Exactly. Laura, thank you so much. You make it all sound very simple and very easy to implement. The wealth of knowledge and information. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Annette. Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Take care.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
Laura. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Laura, for joining us today to give us some helpful information on machine translation. You've been watching LT Talks, Localization Talent Talks. Please join us next week, where we'll continue with our consultant spotlight. This time we will be talking to industry veteran Paul Doherty about what does customer care really mean within the localization industry. You can join us on social. All information about where to find us coming up next. I'm Annette Lawler. Thank you for watching.